Well, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Moroccan Agency for Tourism Development, a very warm welcome to you all to the Morocco Pavilion here for the Morocco Tourism Investment Day. My name is Laura Buckwell, and it's an absolute pleasure to be your MC and your moderator for the day. Well, today we're going to take a look at some of the key investment opportunities that have opened up in Morocco since the pandemic began. Public-private partnerships, government support to international investment, and Morocco's key strengths as a tourism destination. First and foremost, I'd like to formally extend a special thank you and welcome to Imad Barakat, the CEO of the Moroccan Agency for Tourism Development, for getting us all here together. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Welcome. صباح الخير عليكم. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable assistants, welcome to you to this formidable place that is the Morocco Pavilion. Welcome to you to Dubai Expo site and our Morocco Tourism Day, Investment Day. I would like to insist that after this long interruption, we are relieved that we are finally able to meet in person all together and discuss face-to-face meeting. But first, as some of you know, due to the changes in government currently in Morocco, happening in Morocco, and the recent appointment of Her Excellency Nadia Fattah as Minister of Finance, she couldn't be able to come here. So I would like to apologize for this misunderstanding, and may that goes here. I would like you to join me and congratulate her for being appointed by His Majesty the King, Mohammed VI, and congratulate as well the new minister, Mrs. Fatima Zahra Amour, and my wife congratulate go to her. Please allow me to also thank all the attendees and below speakers who have joined the efforts to attend and be present with us today at this gathering. Finally, let me seize this opportunity to thank Bench team and as well Smith's team for supporting this event to happen. I know it has been quite challenging given the circumstances and time frame, given also that IC has just taken place a couple of weeks ago in Dubai too. Ladies and gentlemen, located at the cross of cultures, Morocco is a link between Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, with more than 32 direct air connections, with 32 European cities, and 42 African capitals. It is worth saying that it's at less than 3 hours fly from the main European capitals. Morocco is also a safe and stable destination and secure destination with competitive and outstanding infrastructure. The country has more than 20 international airports with a flow of 25 million passengers annually recorded in 2019. 2,000 kilometers of highways, the first high-speed bullet train in Africa, operating from Casablanca to Tangier. It connects Casablanca to Tangier for 2 hours. And the largest container port in Africa, Tanger Med. Morocco is a destination with strong fundamentals. It's incredibly rich environment with diverse and stunning landscapes and multiple influences, and have created a unique melting pot of culture clearly seen in the architecture of numerous medieval town centers. In addition, we Moroccans are very known by our hospitality and sense of hospitality. All these strengths have allowed the Kingdom of Morocco to attract some of the world's top-class hotel brands, such as Hilton, Marriott, Accor, Four Seasons, and others. I'm not gonna Hilton, of course, and others. Morocco is very known as a top tourism destination in Africa. But what is even more important for the investment community we address today is that Moroccan investment climate. Indeed, His Majesty's government has recently promoted an investor-friendly policy that has allowed the country to improve significantly its ranking in terms of business attractiveness. In the ease of doing of business ranking, maybe it's one of the points that are very important. We establish it each year. Morocco has moved from the 100 position, 128 position in 2010 to the 51st position in 2020. In fact, it means that we gain more than 65 positions. In fact, it is easy now, much easier to set up your business in Morocco, even as a foreigner. There is no restriction on capital investment. It's very important. No restriction on repatriation of capital and profits. No restriction on land ownership. And great easiness in terms of staff recruitment. Labor is very important for us in Morocco, and we work on that. In addition to all these incentives, the tourism sector is a government priority and is backed with various advantages and many attractive investment measures that have been put in place to boost investment in destination. These measures have helped a lot trigger the interest of investors from all around the world, and especially from the Gulf region, from this region, from the MENA region, that have interested massively in several industries in Morocco. Emirates Corporation have chosen Morocco as well as a basis for their operation. A lot of investors are coming from this region, and please allow me to thank them all for their trust and commitment. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a secret for no one. These last 2 years have been particularly tough for the tourism industry and for all of us. So we have, though, best to seize this incredible occasion for Morocco, the Week of Dubai Expo, to show the immense potential of our country and highlight the incredible opportunities that are lying ahead in the Kingdom of Morocco. Indeed, despite the current circumstances, I think that there are still great opportunities emerging in new Moroccan destination that were off the radar before. On our end, in Morocco, we are currently promoting projects on a regional level where we noticed that an increased interest of the tourism community for the open air activities and nature. We therefore foresee the development of an increasing number of scheduled eco-resorts soon, especially in regions that were less likely to welcome tourists in the past. In this sense, the regions of Dakhla, Gelmim, or Agadir in the south of Morocco are experiencing solid growth in this segment as a beach investment. And we are going to have a presentation later on during this meeting with the details about this destination in particular. Mr. Younes Hajwi, which he's with us, I think, is going to do a presentation for us. Also, please let me remind you that this is not just an opportunity to listen, but also an opportunity to discuss, meet, and exchange after this long period of virtual meetings. Thank you all for your attention, and I wish you a pleasant and fruitful event. I now leave the floor to Laura and Hamid, the chairman of the National Confederation of Tourism in Morocco. Thank you.
Well, a huge thank you there to Imad Barakat, the CEO of the Moroccan Agency for Tourism Development. Thank you so much for getting us all here today. Thank you so much. And I think we have a video to play now.
few hours away from the European capitals, Morocco boasts an exceptional geographic location. Its unique tourism potential, its political stability and business-friendly environment make it a prime destination for tourism investments. The Moroccan Agency for Tourism Development provides its expertise to transform each territory into a coherent and attractive destination. It advises and supports investors in choosing the most attractive tourism assets. SMIT contributes to the development of tourism by offering conditions that are conducive to a prosperous future for all the regions in the kingdom. SMIT, bring your projects to life.
Fabulous. Thank you so much once again there to Imad Barakat, the CEO of the Moroccan Agency for Tourism Development. Now, just before we get started, ladies and gentlemen, I want to quickly run through the agenda and how things are going to run today. Now, we've designed the event today to be more of an intimate, interactive opportunity to hear directly from those who are leading hospitality investment in Morocco. And we've got an excellent mix of speakers and panelists for you. And we're going to power straight on through till 12:30, after which we will be serving you lunch on the 7th floor. So we'll see you then. Now, I've also allocated some time for audience questions today, so please do get some good questions going for our panelists as well. All you need to do is raise your hand and we'll get those answered. Please do make sure you switch your mobile phones to silent, and please do continue to adhere to the social distancing guidelines as well. Right. Well, we move on now, ladies and gentlemen, to our opening keynote interview, where our first guest today is going to give us some insight on how the Moroccan government is relaunching tourism and investment post-COVID, as well as some of the collaboration opportunities between the public and private sectors for future growth. It's a great honor to have with us here today Hamid Bentahar, who's the chairman of the Moroccan Tourism Confederation. Let's give him a nice warm welcome. There's a microphone for you as well. There we go. Fantastic to have you here with us today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Laura. Thank you very much
for taking the time out. Well, I thought we'd start our conversation with the pandemic. How have you fared over the sort of past year and a half? Why don't you set the sort of current landscape for us over in Morocco?
If you allow me, Laura, I would like, first of all, to start by saying how happy am I to see face in face a lot of good friends in these rooms. First of all, I would like to thank you all for being here with us, for accepting the invitation. Those are professional operators, investors, and friends, because some of them are friends today. We start in this industry as investors, then we become partners, and we end up being friends. And to all the friends who are here today, I would like to thank them for accepting the invitation and coming to share their passion for Morocco and their passion for our industry. This is my first measure. Concerning the situation in Morocco, as you all know, it's a secret to nobody that it has been a tough time in Morocco, but we worked with the government hand in hand, because the Morocco Tourism Confederation represents all the different associations in the private sector in Morocco. So hospitality, restaurant, travel agent, transportation, all the ecosystem. And we've been working hand in hand with the government to develop a program to overcome this crisis. A program on we call it the 3 R's, resilience. We work on resilience, how to protect jobs, to protect health and safety for everybody, to protect the companies, the cash flow in this complicated program. And we work also on resilience and reinvention of reinventing our industry. Those was the main subject we've been working during this period. My second message is that in Morocco we have a long history of public and private collaboration. Thanks to the vision of the King Mohammed VI, tourism sector was the first sector in Morocco to have a strategic long-term vision. That was the vision in 2010. Then we had a vision for 2020. So this collaboration, this partnership between public is a real long-term strategy. And today, I would like, on behalf of all the professionals and the investors from the private sector in Morocco to invite the partners present with us to be part of the Tourism Confederation and invite them to be all members of the advisory board for the Moroccan National Federation. This is an official invitation coming from all the investors and partners to be part of this confederation, because we have to build together the future of tourism. Morocco is today the #1 destination in Africa. It is 13th in the world. Our ambition is to go further. Our objective is to be in the top 20 destination in the coming years. And we're gonna work that all together to make it happen.
Good stuff. What an amazing invitation. I hope you're all going to take him up on that. So I'm going to dive straight in. Why is Morocco an exciting place for investors right now?
So in my opinion, the strength of Morocco is that it have been blessed. It have been blessed with a great diversity in terms of nature. It have been blessed with a great diversity from sandy beaches to terracotta desert to spectacular mountains, including high, let's say, mountains, and the Toubkal, which is the highest mountain in North Africa, and all the Atlas mountain. So it's, first of all, blessed with natural potential, blessed with the location, exceptional location. We are 15 kilometers from Europe, so we are part of, at the same time, from the Mediterranean market, which is the biggest tourist market in the world. As Ahmed said, less than 3 hours from the main capital, European capital. This is very important. We are also the gate to Africa. We know with our 21 airport today in Morocco, and Casablanca being the hub and the gate from Europe to Africa. This is an important one too. There's stability. This is important for investors. In our industry, we all talk about location, location, location. So we're located next to the main market in the world, in the main destination in the world, and at the same time you have this stability, which is very important. Connectivity is also another element that is extremely important, and the diversity in terms of offers from business and city destinations, let's say, to leisure destination, and plenty of them, and a huge potential for growth in the future. We are only in the beginning. As I told you, we are in top 30 destination in the world. Our objective is to go to the top 20, and with the help of all the experts with us today, I'm sure we'll achieve it.
It's a very exciting place to be right now. So tell us a little bit more about the importance of collaboration opportunities between the public and private sector then. Why is that the sort of way forward, do you think?
As I told you, the history of collaboration is important for us in Morocco, and it started in 2002 with the first vision that have been done in collaboration and real partnership between private and public sector. And it never stopped then. This collaboration, it never stopped. All the investors, all the partners, all the operators are invited to be part of this Moroccan Confederation, which is the official and the credible partner for the government and for the whole ecosystem. Nobody knows the business more than the operators. Nobody knows the business more than the investors, and we have to listen to them. And Morocco have been, Your Highness, and Morocco have been developing its strategy by listening with a lot of humility to the operators and to the investors. And we want to continue this discipline of listening to the market, listening to the operators, to the investors, to develop hand in hand the strategy. We know that we still have room to grow much more. And today we have the most, let's say, credible and the biggest brands in the world present with us in Morocco. Mm-hmm. We have the investment. You know that the tourism sector in Morocco have been developed in collaboration between public and private, but the investment, it's 80% done by the private sector. The investment in Morocco have been done 80% by the private sector, and I would say at least 20% of it is coming from this region. And we need to continue to listen and to grow together hand in hand.
So let's talk a little bit now about the post-COVID traveller, because quite a few trends have actually emerged since the pandemic, haven't they? Like the revenge traveller, and also, the sustainable traveller, and, staycations are very much, they're popularised now as well. So have you had to sort of reposition yourself at all under this current climate as well?
As I told you from the beginning of the crisis, we had a lot of time to rethink and reimagine new solutions and how we're going to face this and turn this crisis into opportunities. So as we've been working on resilience, relaunch, rebound, and reinvention of our industry. We know today that the need of travel have never been so high, and we can see it all around the world. Whenever a country opened its border, everybody would go very fast to the airport trying to jump on planes and to see something else. And today, as you said, the revenge travel becomes extremely important because we all learn from this crisis that it's not that important to own goods, but to live experiences is much more important. And that's where the travel industry become an important answer to those new expectations and new needs. It's important that you talk about the staycation, the local market. In Morocco, this is important for investors. 30%, even 35% of the total business in the hospitality industry is coming from the local markets. So we had a strategy of developing that. It used to be 8% in the early 2000s. Today it's 35% of the industry. It's important in crisis time when you have a local resilient markets. It's even something like 45% of the revenues in Morocco. So this is important, and we want to continue to develop this local market, which is extremely important for our investors and for our business. We want to grow it to 50%. So advisory board, all your ideas are welcome to continue to grow that segment that will help us to be more resilient.
Now, of course, Marrakesh, I'm presuming, continues to be the top location. But tell us a little bit more about some of these more emerging areas that are sort of gaining expansion and more interest. And what sort of expectations do you have for those different areas?
So first, in Marrakesh, I would say that we need to attract more investors within animation, culture, all what concern, let's say, activities around in terms of hospital, bringing new segments to Marrakesh. But then we have what we call the Golden Triangle in Morocco. The main triangle is Marrakesh, Agadir, Essaouira. This triangle, there's plenty of opportunities. Within the coast, Agadir, which is with the new Taghazout Bay, and I know that some of the investors and operators in Taghazout, the biggest in the world, are here with us today, and they are part of this new adventure, this new journey within Taghazout Bay. I think that we have a lot of possibilities within, let's say, the resorts and beach destination in Taghazout, in Essaouira. We have also plenty of new destinations and very interesting one within the Mediterranean and coast from Saidia, and I know also that we have some partners here who are involved in Saidia, north of Morocco, and also in Tamouda Bay, in Al-Husayma. So those are some of our destinations in the Mediterranean coast. But when we go more in the south, we have our amazing new eco destination, which is Dakhla. I think that you're going to have a presentation about Dakhla, which is in the south of Morocco. It's an amazing cultural and beach destination, and we'll see the presentation later about this one. But we also have opportunities within our imperial cities. There's a very important development coming in Rabat, Casablanca, in our main destinations in Morocco. So, as I told you, we are a blessed country. There's plenty of opportunities and very room for improvement for everybody.
Very exciting place. It sounds like a very exciting place to be right now. What is your final key message for our audience? Sadly, we are running out of time. But what is your key message for our audience today?
My key message, first of all, that we need you in our advisory board for the National Tourism Confederation. This one. We're going to overcome this this crisis all together, hand in hand. I would like to say how impressed I am with the Dubai authority organizing these events, and all the team from the Smith and who made it happen, because this kind of events create hope. It shows the confidence that we have in this industry. Travel industry is back. Opportunities in Morocco are now, and we are waiting to see you in Morocco very soon.
Hamid, a great pleasure speaking with you. Thank you
very
so much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it for Hamid Bentahar there. Thank you so much. Fantastic discussion there. Sadly, we don't have any time for Q&A. We do have to battle through. However, if you do have any further questions, you can ask any of our speakers in the lunch at 12:30 when we finish. So we move on now from one conversation to the next, this time in the form of our operator's perspective, where our next set of guests are going to give us their outlook for the future, covering Africa and Morocco, as well as some of the key opportunities for specific brands. It's a great pleasure to welcome to the stage Joachim Jan Schleffer, the President of the Middle East, Africa and Turkey at Hilton. Fantastic to have you here with us. Thank you so much for joining us. And our other guest for this session is Marloes Knippenberg, CEO of Curtin Hospitality. Well, great to have you here, both here. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your very busy schedules. I'm sure you're jetting around all over the place now that things have picked up. So I thought we'd start this conversation with sort of setting the scene, very much like I did in the previous conversation. So what exactly have you witnessed over this past year in terms of how you've worked through the pandemic? How essentially have you had to protect your staff as well across North Africa and Morocco?
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Yes. Good morning. Yeah, that's an excellent question, because I think often we forget what we were really doing. And so our first concern was actually protecting our owners. Of the hotels that we operate in the Middle East and in Africa, which is the region I'm sort of covering, that was our sort of the first thing we were actually doing. The good thing is as well, if you look at it now, but everything which we did in protecting our owners, the communities in which we operate, and our team members, that we're actually very quick out of the starting blocks again. So to give you an idea, Middle East and Africa is sort of shortly after US and Asia Pacific in the opening up again. So those markets are stronger than we are, but there's markets behind us like Europe, which are really behind the region here. So overall, we see a strong recovery because we did all the work during the closure, let's say when the world was closed, working on clean stay and making sure people feel comfortable coming to our properties. We're very quick out of the starting blocks again. So I think it's looking positive again.
Very good news indeed. And Marloes, give us an overview of sort of how you handled the pandemic as well over at Curtin Hospitality.
Well, I think for us, we were telling a story for quite a couple of years, and I think people used to judge by the disruptors and the new kids on the block. And I think during COVID, we signed more new projects than anything, just because all of a sudden there was the staycations, there was sustainable tourism. All of a sudden there was conversations about digital nomads, which were the rich hip kids before, and now pretty much anybody in this room is picking up their life for a couple of weeks and a couple of months, and there weren't any products out for it. So we were very lean already before, which did help, and we've come out of it quite okay.
That's very good news. It's excellent. And well, tell us a little bit more about your growing portfolio across Morocco specifically then. And what does that sort of mean in terms of leading the way confidence-wise for the industry? What does that represent?
Right. Morocco is a key market for us, actually. We're currently operating 3 hotels. We have another 5 in the pipeline, and we're looking at a number of other projects still. So I think the good thing about Morocco in view of the future is that it is a market where we can position the different brands that we have. So we're currently operating 3 hotels, or 2 hotels in Tangier city center and 1 just outside. But we're looking at, we have a Hilton, 2 Hiltons and a Hilton Garden Inn, which is our focus service brand. We're looking at developing other brands in the country. So we have a Conrad opening just outside of Rabat. We have a Hilton Garden Inn in Casablanca opening. There's a Canopy in Casablanca, which is our lifestyle brand. So there's a real opportunity to position the different brands within the country. And the country offers so much. And there's so many cities, like Hamid just said as well, there's so many cities we haven't even looked at yet. So I think there's plenty of opportunity to put the right brands in there. I think, that's what Morocco will help Morocco grow. And, before we were here, we were talking about it. I think, the number of quality properties in the country is going to help the destination to grow as well.
So, Marloes, what about you? What sort of offerings are you looking at across Morocco? And where do you feel is sort of most untapped potential as well?
Well, I think like any market, when it starts growing up, it's first the big brands that go in. It's, the kind of security of the big brands that are coming in. And it's very interesting to see that Morocco now is open and starts the conversation about alternative brands, lifestyle brands. We're working on a project in Marrakesh at the moment. I think there's an incredible opportunity for offering a mixed-use product, long and short stays, offering more than just the leisure product. And I think even when what you said in your speech, it's very interesting that when I went the first time to Marrakesh, I was surprised by the sustainability. I was surprised by the amount of venues that have their own wells, their own food, how green it was. And kind of, the idea of Marrakesh has always been this tourism, leisure, historic kind of destination. And I think the more that message goes out, the more alternative products that are there, the more I think there's a very different target audience that can be grabbed to go in.
Just very quickly, there will be time for Q&A after this, so please do get some good questions going for our guests today. So JJ, without going into specifics, tell us a little bit more about the type of investor and investments that you're seeing come into the market right now then.
Yeah, I think Morocco for us represents investors of very different nature. I'll give you one example. Canopy Les Arènes in Casablanca is a local investor where we really are developing the whole area actually. So we're part of a redevelopment, so it's a mixed use buildings. And I think, this is where a local investor really wants to help the city to grow, to make that very famous area in Casablanca live again. If I look at the Conrad Arzana, which is an Emirati investor. So, we have a real mix of people investing in Morocco. I think the real opportunity, though, if I look at growing fast for us and helping the country as much as we can, is to convert existing hotels into branded hotels. I think, Morocco has a lot of independent properties. So, individuals that operate properties, and there's a huge opportunity for them to join us and, be part of our reservation system and our loyalty program. We can drive business. We have 115 million members in our honors program. So, as soon as we have a new property, people will want to go there. And so we have seen actually during the crisis our uptick on conversions or people that are using an existing office building and convert them into a hotel, or it's 30% up of what it was previously. So people suddenly realized during the crisis that it's actually good to be affiliated with a big brand because it gives you business even when the times are tough. And so if I'm looking at developing in Morocco, it's using local investors, external investors, but looking really at what can we convert in existing stock for our brands. If I look at the cities, everybody wants to be in Casablanca and Marrakesh and Tangier, Rabat, everybody knows that, but there's so many other cities. I mean, it's a massive country. And I haven't heard Fez yet being mentioned here. I mean, Hamid mentioned many cities, but Fez, nobody mentioned Fez. And, if I could Fez very well see a DoubleTree and then Hampton, for instance. So, there's opportunities.
Really, really great to know. So, Marloes, tell us a little bit more about sort of the F&B, some of the opportunities around F&B as well, adding to what JJ said.
Well, I think just to make one point on the investor piece, I think there is an investor that is looking to rebrand or go and build and grow. But I think there is quite a lot of people with roots. They're roots from grandparents or grandparents that are looking to go back. There's quite a lot of people in this region who have an incredible love for Morocco, but I think there's many people who want to put their own stamp on it. And I think there's, and it's really interesting that we're sitting, big operator and really not so big operator. The people that we're seeing and the people that we're working with are the guys that are saying, I have this product, I want to individualize this product. Help me to take me on this journey and really put something there that is unique, that is not done over and over and everything else. And it comes to second-tier cities, third-tier cities. If you can create a number of hubs and you can connect those, like, you go to Spain and you know that you're going to do Barcelona, Madrid, Seville, Valencia. Probably there's nobody in the room who wouldn't know that itinerary. If you could do something similar where you have products that are local, products that are international, you create a combination of that, you do something incredible. And I think coming then to the F&B point is not everybody's going for Moroccan cuisine. Just the fact that the amount of organic and real food is there, that alone is such an incredible opportunity. And it doesn't have to be the Zumas and the Novikovs and all of that, but just to modernize that or to take that to a different level or to have international cuisine that's based on that food be such a great opportunity to drive people to come.
So what sort of collaboration do you think is needed sort of going forward? You spoke about collaboration in the previous conversation, but how should hotel operators be partnering with the government essentially?
Yeah, I think our collaboration with the Tourism Authority has been excellent, I have to say. We try and collaborate as much as we can to sell the destination first. I think, especially coming out of a crisis, we shouldn't be talking about brands. I think, we all should be in here together and sell the destination first. I think the opportunities are massive, and when I was talking to Hamid just before we started, and Marloes alluded to it as well. I think sometimes having a Hilton hotel in a city gives sort of a sign of approval, and it attracts a lot of other businesses. And this has been the case. Morocco, everybody knows our hotel, which we had previously, and we try and do that in different cities as well. So as soon as there's a Hilton there, it's sort of a sign of approval. People feel safe to travel there, and then we can have other brands around us, like Marloes just actually mentioned. So I think the collaboration with the Tourism Authority and with the people from Smith would be to continue looking for opportunities and be clever about it, and maybe take a little bit more risks once in a while. I think we want to be in that market. We want to have more hotels as well in that market. But the collaboration has been excellent, and doing a day like today, focusing on tourism, shows that Morocco really knows what they're doing.
So moving over into this sort of human element as well, what sort of support do you think needs to come from the public or private sector when it comes to sort of developing local talent within Morocco's tourism industry?
I think one of the challenges in many markets is to create a pool of talent, and very often it's a couple of hotels or the breathing source. Everybody's trained there and then stolen by the competition, for just a little bit more. Where I believe there's already an incredible challenge to attract the new generation to work in hospitality. So it's almost like if you could take an innovative approach to talent development, which we can all collaborate in, but it's not we're all stealing it from each other, and we're all you just really create a pool of talent, attract them in a different way, and allow them to move, because that's what they're going to do anyway. And I think if Morocco or any other country could be the first one to hold the flag for that, it'd make a massive, massive difference.
Just before we throw out to our audience, I hope we have some good questions going, please. JJ, tell us a little bit more about the sort of future of the industry, especially the role that the local youth are going to have to play, just following on from what Marloes is saying.
Marloes makes a very good point. I think the expansion which we're going to have in the region, so not only Morocco itself, I think the Moroccan youth can play an incredible role in. I think the Moroccan youth has one thing which nobody else has in the Middle East. They speak 3 languages. And if I look at before the pandemic, Hilton in the world opened about 800 hotels per year, so 2 hotels per day. in my region, which is Middle East, Africa, and Turkey, we'll open over the next 3 to 5 years another 170 hotels. And so I need people. And I think the Moroccan youth, and I see that because we have collaboration with about 10 different hotel schools in Morocco. They speak French, English, and Arabic, which is a fantastic thing. And the hospitality is within the culture. And so I think anybody who has not been to Morocco, and if they go the first time, I mean, you're flabbergasted by the service that you get, actually. And, I think Hilton has always been known for training people. We had the best talent in the world. They train with us. Sometimes they move elsewhere, which is fine. But we pride ourselves for training people from, rank and file all the way up. And so, I think there's a big opportunity for us.
Very exciting indeed. Right, I'd like to give our audience a voice. Who has a question for us? Please do just raise your hand and tell us who you are and where you're from. There must be a couple of questions from our audience members. Don't be shy. Any questions from our audience members? Last chance. If not, no? Are we sure? No questions? You've obviously done a very good job in telling them exactly what we've... Yes, please.
So, you talk about transformation of your business. How have you transformed your business over the past 2 years? And what are you trying to do going forward?
I think we're... sorry, I'm not sure this is actually working.
Do you want to tap it? Is it? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
perfect. The biggest transformation was the transformation that was happening. So when we started, we didn't have one big office. We actually were working remote and sitting everywhere. I've always moved the teams to the projects and the locations from the beginning, which means, you deal with an owner, you pretty much move there for a while. In this period, I think what we've become is much more focused on finding owners with that real vision, who really understand that combining long and short stay with a working component and complementing that with wellness or F&B or retail, or it can be anything, can really create these ecosystems, not just communities, because we're all talking about communities, which is almost this kind of social hub, but ecosystems, which means that you have collaborations that make money, that are commercial, where businesses feed each other. And I think that is really part of the transformation that we can see, we have seen, we see through the openings. Our short-term products, people are requesting for long stays. Our long stay products are selling for short stays. And I think this piece of the transformation is really, there will not be one big office, and there will not be any way that we're going back from this. And I think we're standing to what we were selling before and can see that probably another year and a half, and we can really prove in key financial terms how much more you can make and how good it is for everybody, not just for us.
And I might want to add to that. I think what Morocco Tourism has done very well, they're selling the destination to people within the country. And so we suddenly were selling to individual guests instead of groups. And I think what Morocco Tourism has done very well is they have made the Moroccans understand that staying on holiday in Morocco is actually very nice. Where previously they would go to Spain and they go to Italy, they realized that staying in Morocco was very nice. So we had to adapt the way we actually worked. And the second point, to Marloes' point, for the investors in the room, I think the whole perception of working in an office has changed over the last 1.5 years. So I think, people will be less in offices. I think we still need offices because, especially if you look at us, culture is important to understand, which kind of company you're working for. But I think there will be a lot of office space empty. So there's an opportunity to convert those into properties, actually. So I think there's hotel opportunities there.
Great, thank you so much. Final question from anyone? Just before we wrap up, any more questions? If not, I think we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Fantastic speaking with you. Thank you to JJ and Marloes. Thank you. Another fantastic discussion there. Thank you so much. If you do have any further questions, please don't be shy over the lunch break. So please do ask your questions then. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we move on now to a Morocco-focused performance and pipeline update to tell us about how OCC and ADR are looking in the southern Mediterranean region and broader Africa, as well as the key cities that are performing well. Please give a very warm welcome to Philip Wooler, the Director for the Middle East and Africa at STR.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So yes, so what I am going to do is give you a quick rundown of how we are looking, globally, how we are looking in Africa, and how we're looking in Morocco. I do think it's important to sort of flash back to 2020. I know a lot of the people in the room will want to forget 2020, but I think we need to bring some sort of context to where we are in 2021. I'm not sure how that is. Just have to bear with me a little bit. I know, but there are a lot of familiar faces in here. But for those that haven't seen 2020, it's a good context for 2021. For those that do not know who STR is, I'll just give you a little bit of a brief. We operate in 180 countries and we collect data, we collect information. 68,000 hotels report into us at the moment. I'm telling you this because when we look at the data, it's very solid data. So that's who we are. That represents about 9.1 million rooms. And hopefully we can quickly move on. Thank you. So that's who we are. I've just passed through that very, very quickly because we do work with a lot of government, ministries of tourism, a lot of government agencies. So I just wanted to mention that. Obviously all the hotel groups, the big hotel groups, the advisors, the investors, the banks. So giving you some sort of understanding of who we work with. In terms of hotel performance, I did mention we have to just flash back a little bit to 2020, and it was a very, very difficult year. We've got the occupancy chart here, and we operate in two different areas. We look at total room inventory and standard. Now, standard is what the open hotels are operating at. The total room inventory is if all hotels were open, what would the occupancy be? And it is obviously very, very tough. Normally, when you look across this chart for any normal year, you would see occupancies ranging from 65 to 73. So that gives you some understanding of how difficult 2020 was. Stronger performers, quite ironically, mainland China finishing the year at 49%. Very, very tough in Africa, Northern Africa, 26% occupancy based on full inventory. Quick look at RevPAR before we move on, and that was clearly a very, very catastrophic year across all the markets worldwide. Generally, this is really driven by occupancy. There was some average room rate drops, but generally speaking, it was occupancy and some pretty strong, horrific numbers there. Europe and, in fact, Northern Africa were the two hardest hit at 63% down. But anyway, we move on, and I think it's important to move on. Are we through the recovery? Well, we're moving through into recovery. It's better, and that's the most important thing. So occupancies are beginning to lift. And this is year to date, August. If we looked at the last 2 months and 3 months, occupancies would be driving a lot higher than these occupancies. So things are improving quite a bit. In Northern Africa, in fact, Morocco is one of the main drivers of occupancy increases, particularly over the last 2 or 3 months. So some strong data coming out of Morocco. Just moving through, I know there's a lot of lines, but I think it's important. We can see the considerable drops in January and February of the pandemic. And then we're moving through in terms of occupancy. We had that second wave around about sort of March, April this year, and then things are beginning to improve. The black line is the 2019 level. So the most important takeaway is the whole world, from a hospitality point of view, is heading in the right direction. We're not quite at 2019 levels, but in certain areas we certainly are getting a lot stronger. An average room rate, I briefly mentioned that. I think the hoteliers very, very quickly realized that dropping rates was never going to really drive demand in. There were certain pockets where rates were dropped for more domestic business to try and generate more business from the domestic market. But generally speaking, the average room rate, if we go all the way to the end, and I think, again, very, very important to note that most of the regions are above 2019 levels, or very, very close. So room rate is beginning to improve quite dramatically. Looking at some of the Mediterranean countries, we have occupancy and we have the average room rate, which is blue. And some of these key countries, in fact, all of the countries with the exception of Egypt, are actually above 2019 levels from an average room rate point of view. So quite considerable progress. There is obviously some issues with occupancy, but it is still very, very important to see that things are improving quite dramatically. Moving on to Africa. And what we are looking at here, year-to-date occupancies, August 2021. And if we look around Africa, we can see we have some way to go. Pre-pandemic occupancies, generally in Northern Africa, around about 63%. In Southern Africa, about 60%. So we have some way to go. So on a year-to-date basis, we are struggling, but it's also important to look at that last 8 weeks, which we'll have a closer look at in the next few minutes. For example, Casablanca, occupancies have climbed in the last few weeks and are now tipping the 40% mark. Now, I know that doesn't sound terribly high, but they were operating at levels of 18%. The most important thing is it's certainly trending in the right direction. In Marrakesh as well, occupancy is approaching just over the 40% mark. Elsewhere in Africa, Egypt returning to an improved performance, and then over in West Africa, with Dakar with over 50% of the rooms occupied each day, and Accra also doing some fairly good occupancies. The thick yellow line is Morocco. And again, I think the most important takeaway is we can see the very difficult times of March 2020, April 2020, and then there is a steady progress all the way through to September 21. We're still a little bit below 2019, but it is certainly heading in the right direction. The trend is upwards, and we should push through the 2019 levels fairly shortly. Average room rate, indexed again to 2019. That is the real sort of benchmark. The cities on the left-hand side of the chart have tipped through the 2019 barrier. If you see Seychelles, Marrakesh is one of them. So the average room rate in Marrakesh is higher than it was pre-pandemic. We go a little bit further down the chart, we have Casablanca a little bit below, and then we can compare all these cities in Africa. So progress is being made, certainly in Morocco, but generally progress is being made all across the continent. So if we turn to Morocco in a little more detail, we can see that the more recent period, and I think again this is the most important thing, we can look at year-to-date numbers, but the most important number really is the last 2 or 3 months. And we see that there are significant progress in the last 2 or 3 months. I think I'm right in saying that Morocco resumed international travel on the 15th of June, along with the resumption of the reintroduction of Operation Mahaba. I think that's right. I probably got that terribly wrong. Which I think we all know subsidizes flights for Moroccans back to Morocco over the summer period to spend time with their family. And clearly that has helped the occupancies, international travel and returning Moroccans. So Up until that point, 19% up until June. From there, 44%. And I think the most important thing is also the average room rate. Now it is in dollars, just to make it easier for some. But that I think is what 1,200 Moroccan dirhams. So quite a big increase in the average room rate from the beginning of the year to the last 3 months. Which is there. And I think this is an interesting slide. The grey area at the back is the demand or rooms occupied in 2019. And then the blue is where we are this year. So there's obviously some considerable difference, but again, I think the point I've been trying to make is that the more recent performance of the Moroccan market is considerably better than it has been since the beginning of the pandemic. The grey shaded area, the average, I think, within the country is round about 1 million rooms occupied per month. We can see on the far side we're up to about 800,000, although August is one of the peak months in Morocco. But certainly, very, very encouraging news. It's heading in the right direction. If we look at some of the other cities, we've gone from the early part of the year all the way through. We've got the Agadir, Casablanca, Marrakesh, Tangier, and again we see a very, very similar trend where we're heading in the right direction. In terms of the occupancy now for Tangier, 70% occupancy currently, very, very strong. A little bit lower in Agadir and Casablanca, but certainly things are heading in the right direction, although there is a little bit of a blip in Casablanca. And the average room rate, this is really indexed again to 2019. That always is the benchmark, the most important point. On the far right-hand side, we have pushed through 2019. Average room rates are stronger in Morocco now than they were in 2019. So certainly some positive news coming out of Morocco. Over in Casablanca, again looking at the year-to-date numbers for June 2021, a 24% occupancy. Pretty obviously a big struggle there, but more recent in the last 2 or 3 months, occupancy has moved up to 38% with an average room rate which is also pushed up. So things are certainly getting a little bit stronger in Casablanca. Over in Marrakesh, similar story. Marrakesh is a bigger hotel market. I think we have around about 22,000 rooms in our supply database. We heard about domestic tourism, 35% domestic tourism. So currently, occupancy has pushed up in the last few months from 18% area to 35%. Average room rate has dropped a little bit. That might be more competitive pricing to try and drive business in and try and build occupancy, but still, again, heading in the right direction. And the real successful or the highest performer in Morocco is Tangier. Obviously a strategic gateway between Africa and Europe. Tangier is now outperforming 2019 by some margin, which is at the bottom, 57%, so a strong occupancy of 62%, and an average room rate of $116, so which is over 1,000 Moroccan dirhams. So some quite considerable progress in Tangier. Little bit of news, first one, that will encourage more room nights and more tourism into Morocco. Radisson Hotel Group, you will know about this, 1,600 rooms, so a lot of progress there. And speaking of the pipeline, and looking across, we've got, in Morocco, we've got just over 6,000 rooms in the pipeline. The biggest market for new hotels is Egypt, followed by Nigeria and Ethiopia, but there's certainly a lot of attention being paid to Africa. In total, 75,000 rooms under contract. And who are the main companies? Accor tops our list of top parent companies with pipeline, with over 15,000 rooms, followed by Marriott, followed by Hilton. And then the Radisson Hotel Group, I'm not sure if that's been updated, but a lot of the big brands, the big operators certainly pushing through into Africa. And in terms of actual brands, well, Hilton is number one with 5,313, and followed by Movenpick, Novotel, and Fairmont. I think Radisson Hotel will start to push up on this fairly shortly. So a lot of activity with all the big operators, with all the big brands. If we come through to Morocco, we can see there that many of the gateway cities are now seeing a lot of new pipeline coming through. We have 44 hotels and 6,500 rooms coming into Morocco. So, and in cities that were mentioned earlier on, Agadir, Casablanca, Fez, Rabat, Tangier, so we'll all have a number of brand new top quality properties in Morocco. And just to confirm some of those brands here, Radisson should also be on there. So a great selection of Hilton, Fairmont, St. Regis, Park Hyatt, so from luxury all the way through. A fine selection of hotels. And that concludes my presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from our audience before you leave? Any further questions from our audience? We do have a little bit of time. If not, you can catch any of our speakers in the lunch, which is coming up at 12:30. Thank you so much once again to Philip Wooler there. Thank you. Right, so we move on now, ladies and gentlemen, to our next speaker, who is here to showcase some of the incredible opportunities across one of Morocco's key tourism destinations, Dakhla. To tell us more, please join me in welcoming Younes Hajwi, who is the head of the Department of Asset Management at the Moroccan Agency for Tourism Development.
الطريق نحو الأصل، واحة المستقبل، تاريخ وثقافة وفرص، محيط وصحراء وجبال، منحوتات تسي، جند عقبة بن نافع، الملك الذي أنشأ المغرب، الصحراء الأطلسية، فرص متاحة لتطوير المنتجعات مع يسر الولوج، مطارات أجادير، ولمين، طنطار، العيون، وجهة ستنافس مراكش والدار البيضاء. أشهر بالمغرب، نبضات تلو نبضات، صدى جعجعة الطحن وقرع الطبول، ركض الجمال والخيول، شاهد الفنون والحرف والمهرجانات المحتفى بها، عيش الثقافة، ضيافة مرموقة عالميا، المس رمال الصحراء ومياه المحيط الجاري، عوالم غير متوقعة، فرص فريدة لنبني معا الصحراء الأطلسية.
Okay. Perfect. Good morning, everybody. My name is Younes Hajri. I'm head of development. So let me start with the presentation today. It's great to be right after STR because he gave us some encouraging numbers on how the Moroccan destination is rebounding right after the COVID crisis. So let me start with a little bit with what's Morocco has to offer to the international investors. So everybody knows, tourism in Morocco is a top priority for the government. It's a resilient destination, as Mr. Bentar talked about it earlier. Secure, safe, and stable environment. Strategic location located next to one of the main continents, which is Europe, and also 4 or 5 hours from the main international capitals. Unequal tourism potential, we're going to talk about it a little bit later, and robust infrastructures with around 20 international airports, high-speed train, whatever an investor can look for in a destination is available right now in Morocco. Smith. So what Smith has to offer, everybody asks about the kind of help that we can give them. So Smith is here as part of the Moroccan tourism ministry to help to orient investors, give them whatever information they're looking for in terms of project identification, land parcels, different regions of Morocco. We can give also market intelligence with many of our partners. We can network them and present them to different local administration operators. A big part of the work also we do, I know that we work with a lot of international operators to matchmake them with local. I know gentleman for Hilton spoke earlier about it. So a big part of our work is to matchmake local investors with international operators, as part of the mission of Smith is to develop the presence of international brands and to upgrade the level of service in Morocco. Also help on government incentive programs. There's a lot of incentives that are offered to international investors, different kind of either on land, on cash incentives. So we work on this, and after this we have all the follow-up that needs to be done until the official opening of the properties. Moroccan tourism industry. So what are the objectives that the Moroccan government have put for us in terms of objectives? So we were talking about it a little bit earlier. Our national objective is to double the number of overnights. Same for international arrivals, employment, bed capacity, and increase the EDR and the RevPAR. I know that many of the objectives we already close to achieve them, like as bed capacity. The increase that Morocco have seen in the last 10, 15 years in terms of bed capacity, it's just phenomenal with the number of destinations, not only Marrakesh that everybody knows, but also other destinations, Agadir, Taghazout, Casablanca, Saidia, etc. So all this is done through different investment sectors where to invest. So we're talking about not only lodging, but also entertainment, leisure, trips. So we do not focus only on lodging investments. We focus on different kind of investments. So whatever your attraction park, water park, any kind of like leisure that can work on, because as you all know, building a hotel is good, but it's not enough. So you need to, this tourist, when he comes, he needs to have somewhere where to go to plan his day. What experience Morocco has? I know we've been talking about it, but I want to get into a little bit more detail about it. Morocco has various experiences that it has to offer. So not only it has the sea experience, the beach experience, but also we have the historical, cultural experiences that we have to offer. Rural experience. I know rural mountain. I know Morocco is not famous for, but it exists. It has a lot of Morocco has a lot of landscapes, stunning landscapes that it has to offer, and obviously the desert experience that we're gonna see a little bit later today. This is actually one of the sceneries that we can see southern Morocco around the Rashidia region. Achievements. I know the brands, a couple of presentations in the morning talked about the existing brands in the morning. I know like 80 or 90% of the international brands, the most famous ones, at least on the top 20, are already in Morocco. But But not only them, but also the top investors, international investors, especially from the GCC region, Istismar, Kingdom, Qatari Diyar, Agial, are all in Morocco. They believe in what Morocco has to offer, and they participated in creating a world-class destination. As a matter of fact, the number of tourists visiting Morocco increased by 6%, and it has never fell over the last 15 years. So if we exclude also the COVID pandemic that we're rebounding from really on a stronger way, Morocco is really a resilient destination. The tourism potential, so 3,500 kilometers of coastline and 9 national parks. So this is actually something that we're putting our focus on. The national parks, the desert experience, this is something new that Morocco right now is focusing on. 31 Medinas. So I don't know if everybody is familiar with the Medina concept, but it's the old way of doing of a building. So we have 31 Medinas in Morocco, over 8,000 historical monuments, and 9 cultural properties listed at UNESCO's World Heritage. How to invest in Morocco? So a lot of different ways are possible how to invest in Morocco. So first of all is the investment stocks. There's a couple of Moroccan companies that are listed in the Casablanca Stock Exchange. We can also take minority or majority stakes in holding companies that invest in Moroccan tourism. Existing hotel or resort assets, either brownfield, distressed, trophy, depending on what the investor is looking for. I know that there are a lot of conversions also that can be done from existing building to new branded hotels. And also finally, the Greenfield Tourism Project in either emerging, mature, or premium destinations. Off-site infrastructure development and upgrading may be involved depending on location. And we're going to see a little bit later some of these greenfield tourism that we're talking about. Let's go right there. So Aghrout, what's Aghrout actually? I'm pretty sure everybody's familiar with Agadir. So Agadir is a city located central Morocco. Approximately 20 kilometers north of Agadir, you have Dakhla Bay that we talked about earlier, with the 5-6 international brands already present there, and a couple of hotels in the pipe, pre-opening soon. So if you go another 20 kilometers north of Dakhla Bay, that's 40 kilometers north of Agadir, you have Aghrout. So this is a greenfield project, pretty new, an area of 600 hectares. Smith is working right now. All the strategic decisions has been taken to develop this area. The area is beach oriented with a lot of entertainment around. So we're talking about park attraction parks, aqua park, water parks, animal parks, and all-inclusive hotels. So it's the idea is to complement what Agadir and Dakhla have to offer. Second one is Plage Blanche. So if you go further south of the city of Guelmim, you have the Plage Blanche area, which is a leisure resort for families between river, ocean, and desert. Sorry. So the area is around 1,000 hectares, and we're gonna see. We've seen some of the scenery earlier in the video, with different experiences that complement with the desert scenery that Guelmim have to offer. This is actually the actual scenery right now. The views are just stunning. It's one of the longest beaches in Morocco, with over 40 kilometers of this view. Just like this, the scenery just stunning. Last is Dakhla. So Dakhla, located as the southern Morocco. So Dakhla Bay is one of the famous places right now for wind sports, kite surf, windsurf, etc. And it's becoming more and more a destination for different products, such as well-being. People looking for something out of the box. They come here for moderate-sized themed resorts. The majority of the properties are all made of either wood or local material like clay or something like that, to have something different. And we have a lot of water sports and also adventures. Some of the scenery, this is one of the famous places that exists right now in Dakhla. So you're familiar with, Dakhla has an international airport, international flight connection with Paris, and many various local flights. That's it for me. Thank you everybody, and hope you enjoy your day.
Fantastic presentation there. Thank you so much. And we move on now. Thank you so much once again to Younes Hajri, the Head of Department of Asset Management at the Moroccan Agency for Tourism Development. Any further questions, of course, you may ask in the lunch, which is coming up after our final session of the day, ladies and gentlemen. We move on now to our final session, which is a panel on investor sentiment, where our next set of guests will take a look at some of the different types of hospitality assets Morocco has to offer private investors, government support to international investment, as well as some of the brownfield projects to attract private capital into Morocco's tourism industry. To tell us more and to do the introductions, please join me in welcoming your moderator for this next session, Jonathan Worsley, Chairman and CEO of Bench.
Thank you so much, Laura. Just a delight to be here. And I've got a very exciting panel session, and it's great that they're all involved in investment in Morocco or looking to invest in Morocco. So we're going to get a slightly different perspective from what we've heard this morning in terms of the approach of what they're looking at. So first, let me introduce Khalid. Come and join me up on the stage. Khalid is CEO of Abu Dhabi National Hotels Company, and a Finnish citizen, and started his career in Morocco, interestingly, and has had some involvement, of course, in investing in Morocco over the years. I'd like to introduce Fardan Al-Fardan. Fardan, lovely to see you. He's the founder of Embassy Capital Limited, a multi-asset management company based in Dubai, and has successfully closed numerous transactions in both the Middle East and Europe, and has been and is looking currently at investing in Morocco. And then finally to Louis Kruger. Laurie, lovely to see you. He's head of transactions for the Middle East and Africa for Westmount Hospitality Group, one of the world's largest private owner-operators of hotels. Laurie oversees the organic growth of the company in the Middle East and Africa, and previously worked for Kingdom Hotels and owned the Four Seasons Marrakesh before selling to Westmount, of which he, of course, is now in charge of in terms of acquisitions. So you've got 500 hotels, and you came into Africa in 2015, I believe. So it's been about 6 years now where you've been investing in the region. So guys, just great to have you, and a really interesting perspective, given that you all have investments or looking to invest in Morocco. Just give us a quick landscape where you are now. What's your appetite for Morocco, and you know, do you see yourself investing more in Morocco at the moment? Khalid, if I can start with you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Abu Dhabi National Hotels has interest in Morocco, and that goes back to the 80s, actually, with the two properties. One in Marrakesh that has been recently sold to Group Barcelo, and the other one, it's in Agadir, and it's currently under sale as well. Now, I precise that it was 80s, some investment that was made in the 80s, and these type of investment, they were mainly driven by solidarity, I would say, rather than yield or return on investment. And these two properties, unfortunately, they didn't really play the role to drive further investment into Morocco for various reasons. Some of them were legitimate, because Morocco of the 80s is no longer Morocco of today. So the infrastructure was not really ready. We were looking at much more traditional tourism rather than big scale that is seen today. So that has left, I would say, not very positive perception toward the investors. So when I joined Abu Dhabi National Hotels 5 years ago, so these two properties were on my table to actually to execute the sales. And so we had various discussions with the board of directors, whether to go back to Morocco, whether to continue to retain these two investments. But as I explained, they had some legitimate concerns, which, of course, being Moroccan myself, I couldn't really take, strong position in defending. It's a country that I love, and of course, beautiful with its nature and geographical diversity and so on. But from when I look at that issue from return on investment perspective, yes, they were absolutely right. There was no return, but I think partially it was due to the lack of proper asset management. And that's what has changed the equation today when I have discussions with those investors, that today we are in completely different scheme. Morocco recently did massive investment in infrastructure, whether roads, railway, ports, and others. Morocco continues to enjoy the geographical location that it's exceptional. It is within reach to major key European cities. And the government of Morocco continues to reform all type of legal frame that really cover and ensure the interest of the investors. So all this has today, I can say, and I'm proud to say that I was even asked from the board really to go and to look for opportunities in Morocco.
Okay. So you're back in the game, looking to invest. Vardan, tell us about your appetite for Morocco at the moment.
Yes. So actually, we've been looking at Morocco for a while right now. Morocco to us is a fundamentally very strong tourism market, and the close proximity, as my colleague Khalid was saying, between Europe and the Middle East is also attractive. So we've been looking there in a couple of cities, but mainly focusing really on Marrakesh. We like the fact also that the supply there is restricted actually from and depending on the city. So that's also a plus point to us. So we've been, we've been just following what's happening right now. We think today the market is very attractive actually for acquisitions, and this is why we've been looking there actively, especially in the current couple of months. So in that kind of sense, we're interested in investing in Morocco. Also, what we've seen is that the government is actually spending on infrastructure. There's a Morocco vision, to actually expand airports and the infrastructure over there, which is also helpful, and also opening airports in new cities. So that's also very helpful for us, actually.
All right, that's great. And Laurie, tell us about your appetite for, you've started looking at Africa in 2015, Morocco you've invested in. What's your appetite?
Yeah, so we in Morocco, in Marrakesh and in Casa at the moment. The short answer is we need more. It's a top target country for us through everything that these gentlemen have just said. Infrastructure, the amount of lift. I mean, the market's changed in Marrakesh since the new airport completely. So we're very bullish. It's, as I said, it's a target country for us. Casa and Marrakesh, we can probably do more. But we're also starting to look at some of the other centres.
Okay, and what are some of the challenges that you're finding investing in Morocco? Is it looking for finding those opportunities?
To Fardan's point, I think there's opportunities plenty today.
Some of those opportunities will mature over the next 12 to 24 months. I think the Westmont business model is to take an operating hotel and improve that hotel, whether that's through CapEx, whether that's operational, but there needs to be some kind of a value add, otherwise we don't get involved. So I think in terms of where we have found it a little bit difficult in Morocco, acquisitions easy, the legislative framework is easy to work with, and I think debt capital markets, something we touched on just now, sometimes the banks tend to disappear. And then if you spend in CapEx, that can get not tricky, but it's quite bureaucratic, especially if the tax on capital expenditure, how that system works, how do you optimize, stuff like that.
So you're looking at conversion opportunities?
Conversion and repositioning.
Repositioning, okay. Fardan, what about yourself?
Yes, actually, what Laurie was saying, we were discussing this actually before joining the panel, is the debt market there is a bit, tricky. We see a lot of banks interested mainly in a lease structure. So if there is any lease structures, you see the banks interested to come and finance. But then in other kind of acquisitions where there's an HMA kind of existing income generating building or a greenfield project, it's not that easy to obtain debt. And part of us actually going, to other countries to invest is actually to take advantage from the debt, markets over there. This is one challenge, and then also, we kind of want income to come back, to the investors or as dividends. There is a couple of tax layers like withholding taxes and stuff that the dividends are taxed on while exiting Morocco. I think that's a bit, we can work around it, but really the debt market there. If you ask me about, what's the, what made us or delayed our acquisition in Morocco, really is the debt kind of market's not friendly.
Okay. And Khaled, for you, is it opportunistic opportunities, or would you look at greenfield side as well?
Look, we will be looking, well, we are currently looking on existing properties, and that I believe that will enable us to, to reposition ourselves in Moroccan market, and then from there eventually to look at other opportunities. And I believe also at, the private public sector partnership. I think that Morocco has quite significant project that could be eventually co-financed by the government and or by institutions from the government. As for the financing, I mean, I would rather, get the finance from this part of the world, which is cost of money. It's a bit, more cheaper than in Africa in general. So, or through other instruments and funds eventually. But yes, we will sure be looking at repositioning ourselves in Morocco. We believe in the future of Morocco. As I said earlier, the natural attribute of Morocco will remain. Morocco government is continuing in investing in development, and that also to mention also the safety security aspect and political stability that is essential for any investor today.
And Laurie, tell us the type of asset you're looking for.
Business travel, for the most part.
Yeah.
That's our bread and butter.
Yeah.
Business travel in gateway centers. And interesting with Morocco, and very few markets in Africa doing this, is where you actually start seeing that business traveler market expand beyond just the capital city. Right? You're starting to see some of them in Fez, some of them in Marrakesh, some of it up in Tangier. And that's interesting. And that's also a clear sign of a maturing market. Right? And that's partly why we'd like to allocate some more capital there.
Just following up on the whole sort of business travel, how are you seeing that change as well in terms of the product? I mean, we had Marloes up on the stage earlier talking about the co-working, co-living type of product.
Yeah, difficult, and especially for me because I'm on the numbers side. Look, when we're looking at these repositioning things, the flexibility is key. We can't see 5 years into the future. right? Never mind 10 or 15. So whatever spaces you're creating, it needs to be flexible. It needs to work for everything, not just today, but also in the future. Number one. Number two, the more revenue lines we can generate in a single asset, the more diversified our returns.
Okay. Fardan, what about yourself?
Yes, actually, we're looking at the business travel and also the leisure. So, we're chasing yields, and Morocco is a very good yielding kind of country and environment. So, we are doing both of the offerings. Also, what we are looking at, I think most of the brands are present there. So you see most of the brands there, and then in the same time you see some local brands actually managing hotels in a very perfect way. So we're looking at actually more or less all the spectrum.
Okay, and sorry, just come back to you, Laura. You've got your own brand as well, correct?
Invested in the US in a brand, economy brand called Red Roof.
Right. But you're not looking to take that your own brand.
No. Not at this stage. No.
Okay.
The operators of the brands are doing very well in Africa at the moment. Right. There's a hunger for brands. There's a brand recognition in the most part of the continent. South Africa, a little bit different, and that works, and it will continue to work in the foreseeable future.
You must be seeing quite a lot of opportunistic opportunities throughout Africa right now.
There are a few.
Just a few, yeah. Khalid, what about yourself? I would imagine you're looking at sort of more of the luxury end of the market, aren't you?
No, not necessarily. I mean, look, I know that we are recognized for having our own luxury products here in the UAE, but Morocco, I mean, it's a destination that it's appeal and will continue to appeal to all different segments, whether leisure, business, domestic tourism is growing. Not to forget as well the Moroccan diaspora that lives around the world and comes and spend, enjoy Morocco. Yeah, I mean, luxury segment, luxury hotels, that could be also, I think there are opportunities in the entry-level 5 stars as well, as a good 3-star hotels, in various cities in Morocco.
Okay. If there's any questions from the audience, please let me know. We talked a little bit about transformation. So as owners, how have you had to transform obviously with the operator? I would imagine it's close collaboration with the operator. But Laurie, any ideas, any thoughts on that, how you have had to look at your business model or your assets?
Yeah, lots. Quite detailed ones, I suppose. Look, I think the key one for us is we've got very good relationships with the brands. So the brands have been very supportive over the last 18 months. I think without their help, we couldn't have done what we had done. And number 2 is people, right? We had to make some tough calls on people. Now, how do you do that, is going to be telling, not just in terms of how you run your business, how you perceive in the market, how your other stakeholders are looking at you. So this has been, between the support from the brands and how we've had to restructure the way that we look at people and staffing. Those are the two big things that we focused on.
Yeah, we heard about that earlier, didn't we, about the whole challenges of staffing. So that must be up there. You've got the debt issues, staffing problems. Any other challenges?
The tax man has become a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
But that's part of what we do. Just as investors, we're trying to save money in tough times. Governments need liquidity. So again, something that's been taking a bit of focus from our side. But not too bad. Okay.
Fardan, what about yourself in terms of transforming as an investment vehicle? Is there anything that you're now looking at that you probably wouldn't have looked at before?
In terms of investments,
yeah.
Yes. Actually, we were not really looking at resorts at all. We were looking at more like city hotels or the business travel hotels. But today we are considering resorts, and we're looking at resorts in specific cities And that wouldn't have been the case maybe a year or 2 years ago.
Khaled?
I personally believe that business travelers will come back to the whole, I mean, maybe not at the same scale, but we will continue to enjoy those travelers. Now, as far as hotel position and as concern, it's always good to, you know, it's not always possible, but it's good if we can have the hotel that would appeal to different segments and go through different seasons. And that's the case in our hotels in Dubai, which they are fantastic hotels for whether leisure or business. And I think that's the way forward. As for Morocco, I would rather you know, focus on resort type of hotel segment. Because again, the natural beauty of the country, you know, everyone would love to enjoy these natural beauties.
Okay, Imad, we've got you here. What is it? How can you address some of these issues that are, or challenges that have been addressed on the panel, particularly when it comes to staffing? And also, there's a little bit here on debt as well. Taxes increasing, perhaps slightly.
I think we have done a lot of. Thank you, first of all, for what have been said, because it's important for us to learn from, I mean, investors, and we have to move on and to improve climate investment, but as well the fiscality of investment is important. We have done a lot of effort helping investors to come to Morocco. Right now, we are more focusing on this kind of new destination where I think Moroccans doesn't need us. I mean, investors are coming to Marrakesh. I mean, the brands are already present to Marrakesh, and so, but we are trying to focus on the south. The south, it's a virgin destination, a beautiful destination. I think you saw the film, you saw as well the picture, and we need, let's say, help to develop this kind of destination. Dakhla, it's a booming destination today. We don't have any more time to find investor there because there are already a lot of people going there. But for the other regions like Galmim, which has a beach destination by excellence, we need people going there. We need people taking a risk there. I'm not talking about maybe brands, but I'm talking more investor profile of investor is different than the other destination. So I hope COVID is leaving us, is behind us, and hope the investment will come. We didn't stop. We still having people from GCC investing in Rabat, investing in Casablanca. That's why I'm not promoting Rabat. I'm not promoting the investment in the other region, but there's still opportunity to invest in Agadir, to invest in the south, to invest in the middle of Morocco. Thank you, Jonathan.
Okay, no, thank you, Imad. And we heard from Fardan, who's interested in resorts, so definitely pick up the discussion there.
Sure.
We haven't spoken too much this morning about ESG and sustainability. You know, and this is going to be a key issue for us in the coming years. I think one of our big challenges. So, Laurie, how as a business, how are you addressing these challenges on sustainability?
It's such a wide-ranging topic.
I know,
I think
sorry.
the first thing look, the brands are very good at doing ESG, right? They've been doing it for a long time. I think the first thing that investors and property owners need to recognize is that this is good business, right? We did a lot of work back Kingdom days with the World Bank and the IFC building out these sustainability models. And yes, you've got a kind of a moral directive to look after your staff, and you're building a very expensive asset, or you're owning a very expensive asset in the community. So you need to think about everything that happens there and see these people as stakeholders. But it's really good business, right? And we've proven it time and again that through having a sustainable mindset when it comes to these things, and this again goes back to people, goes back to design, goes back to energy usage. goes back to supply chains. All of these things across the board ultimately end up with a better return for the owners.
Khaled, do you want to add anything on that?
In my view, sustainability, I mean, this is something that it is driven by governments. And then as an investor, we will only have to embrace and embark with that journey. Of course, when we talk sustainability, especially today, there is a cost involved and attached to that. And again, of course, on the long term, it will pay out. I mean, just start with little things like LED lighting in a hotel that has a consequent cost, but then of course, you know, this cost will be diluted toward years. So I would leave that to the government, and we as investors, we will just embrace and embark on that journey.
Okay, great. And Fardan, do you have anything to add?
Yes, actually, Khaled pointed about the governments being involved in that, but I also would say the hotel operators actually do, sometimes, come up with ideas, and they've been doing that across other geographies and countries. So they would get us this technology or something, and we would not hesitate to actually implement it.
As long as they don't do it on the cost of owners, huh?
Actually, yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Any questions from the audience?
Anything on short-term rentals or apartments? Anything in that market that you're interested in looking at, or is that something that's still kind of, in your view, far away from an investment perspective in Morocco?
I mean, if you allow me, I would let us to the communities. We wouldn't be big investors just going into that niche market. Does apartments and villas and all that. It's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of small investors, and I would rather leave them enjoy that and just, to have the other OTAs to support them and to eventually help them, grow their business.
Your hotel assets, or the hotel assets you're looking at an apartment or a residential element to those properties, or out of the question?
Look, today it's quite obvious. Even here in the UAE, you will find a lot of products or model which is hotel and residence, and I think that there is an appeal. I think that will continue, and we will see this moving towards Morocco, towards certain areas, because it's quite lucrative model.
I think mostly in the greenfield projects, yes. People would consider actually building a residential element to the hotel or something. But for us, we look at mainly income-generating assets. Most of the time, if they had a residential element to that would have been sold, before actually thinking of selling the hotel. So we're not in the greenfield kind of project. So I think we're not considering that.
Long stay hotel rooms or accommodation in Casablanca specifically. There's a market.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, one at the back.
Hi. My question is probably to Fardan, because you mentioned you're interested in resorts more than business hotels. How's your appetite regarding investing in alternative accommodation, that is eco-lodges, experiential lodges, anything that is temporary accommodation and sustainable?
Well, we haven't looked at any investments in Morocco regarding that up to now. We are looking mostly at beach resorts, or some resorts in Marrakesh, for example. But nonetheless, we have to study that more. If there's any opportunities, we're happy to look at it, but it needs much more study from our side.
I suppose not from your side, and unlikely from your side, Khaled?
Yeah, for me as a private person, I would love to, to have a 20 room somewhere on Dakhla. I would love to, but for our institution now, it's a bit too small.
Too small.
Yeah.
So Fardan, You should have a meeting with Envy afterwards. Okay? Excellent. Well, listen, it's 12:30. I think it's lunchtime. Laura, I'm going to pass back to you, but gents, thank you so much for joining me on stage and learning more about the investor perspective. Thank you so much.